welcome everyone to the Niagara Regional Police Service Board teleconference for Thursday, the 25th of July. 25th of June. My name is Ken Gansell, and I am the chair of the Niagara Regional Police Services Board. And during the COVID, before I get into all of this, do we have any declarations of conflict of interest from any board members? Hearing any? I skipped over something. Previous meeting minutes, which is item number 99 in your agenda. I need a mover and seconder for that, please.
So moved, Henry.
Seconded by?
Steve Eek, second.
I think I heard Member Steele first, or Vice Chair Steele first, so I'll go with that one as a seconder. If anybody is opposed, if they would indicate that. If not, I will declare that the minutes of the Thursday, May 21st meeting on the public side is adopted and circulated and approved. So now we'll go back to my opening comments again. Where I left off was comments regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. It is certainly important that the board is able to continue with its governance and oversight work. This is our third public teleconference meeting, and we are taking a lot of measures to ensure that this telemeeting runs smoothly. But please be patient with us. We occasionally do have hiccups, and we're also working from electronic agendas on several screens. As Niagara has moved into stage 2 of a COVID recovery phase, I want to take a moment to thank Chief McCullough and the executive leadership team, the uniform and civilian members of the Niagara Regional Police Service who've been working under difficult circumstances with rules and processes that are at times changing daily. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today, Niagara Regional residents, members of the media, the Niagara Regional Police staff who are listening online. Thank you for your support and staying connected and following the guidelines of Niagara Regional Public Health. We all have a stake in this, so let's all stay safe. With that said, I'm going to proceed with today's agenda items. Although this meeting is taking place on a telephone or via YouTube, we acknowledge that the land that we are on, as we make this call, is the traditional territory of First Nations people. In particular, we recognize and thank the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe people for their stewardship of these lands over the millennia. We also wish to thank all First Nations people in Canada for their ongoing and important roles in caretaking of the land beneath our feet whenever we stand on Turtle Island. I've done with the part there. I would just ask that we have on the call the Chief of Police, Deputy Chief Flynn, Deputy Chief Forty. From the board side, we have Vice Chair Bill Steele, members of the board, Bob Gale, Henry DeAngela, Tara McKendrick, David Eek. Member Gibson will be joining us around 9 o'clock. He has another engagement that is on at this time. In reports from myself, I'll go back to the Justice for Black Lives Matter demonstration, and I would like to comment of the demonstration that took place back on Saturday, June the 6th in Niagara Falls. As board chair, I attended, and it was heartening to see so many people, including the Chief of Police, Brian McCullough, and other members of the Niagara Regional Police Service and local area politicians at the event to show their support for this movement. You can tell that everyone was very supportive and appreciative of our presence. Throughout the day, we were approached by many members of the public who were extremely complimentary of our police officers and spoke about the positive relationship that our community enjoys with the members of our police service. We're extremely fortunate to enjoy a high level of public trust and confidence in our police service to deliver a bias-free policing, which is a tribute to our dedication and commitment by our police members. Police trust and confidence are cornerstones of effective policing. Going forward, the board and service will continue to work with various equity, seeking groups including Black community, Indigenous community, the LGBTQ, and various faith groups to listen and learn how we can police our community more effectively and more inclusively. Our board certainly welcomes the opportunity to strengthen police accountability while ensuring greater community safety and well-being. Policing in Canada is not the same as policing in America, as Canadian police training programs prioritize de-escalation over confrontation. And I'm going to stress that again because I think it's a very important part. Our officers are trained in a de-escalation environment versus the aggressive environment. Our board certainly welcomes the opportunity to strengthen police accountability and expect a further collaboration with the board and the chief on equipment and technology, including body-worn cameras. These items need to be discussed as it relates to police operational requirements, budget impacts, timelines for any project and implementation. The Niagara Regional Police Service Board is mindful of recent events and movements, and we are open to engage in being part of the discussion to make sure our police service reflects the needs of the communities we serve. To those in our communities who have reached out to us, we want you to know that the Police Service Board hears you and supports you and stands with you. Today, every day, we hope to work with you to advance racial justice in a meaningful and impactful ways. I encourage everyone to contact the board if you have any issues by way of our website, niagarapolice.ca, and then click on Police Service Board and then contact us. There's an email form to be completed, and responses to your emails will be forthcoming. As well, our phone and postal addresses are on that Contact Us page as well. Other items, the Ontario Association of Police Service Board 2020 Annual General Meeting was not held as a physical meeting but was held as a webinar. It took place on May 29th. Board members participated at the OAPSB annual meeting via a Zoom virtual web meeting. There were over 165 registered members who participated in the webinar. And I will add that that's almost the same number that would have attended the physical meeting. So I think that is actually very good. At the meeting of that board, we reviewed the annual financial statements and auditor's report, proposed resolutions submitted by members of the board, and ratified the board of directors for the 2020-2021 term. Patrick Weaver, the chair of the Chatham-Kent Police Service Board, is now the chair of the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards of Directors, and I was confirmed as the Zone 4 Director representing Niagara and other police services in this area. The other item is the Canadian Association of Police Governance. They hold a number of monthly webinar sessions. The CAPG offers these as educational resources to keep board and police executives apprised of issues currently impacting policing in the community. And it has more of a trans-Canada focus than, let's say, an Ontario focus. This month, the board participated in 2 webinars. The first was held on June 10th and focused on financial literacy for police boards and commissions, understanding police budgets, and the second was held on June 24th, and it discussed the legal provisions of conducting virtual meetings, such as the one we're doing today. Next item is the Regional Chair Jim Bradley State of the Region Address. This was held on June 18th. Board members participated in this address. Again, it was done electronically by Regional Chair Jim Bradley. It is the annual address which is made to the business community, and discussions primarily focused on economic impact of COVID-19 has had on Niagara local businesses and essential services in our region. This was followed by a panel discussion led by the CEO of the Niagara Greater Chamber of Commerce, the regional chair, the acting CAO of the region, the acting medical officer of health, and commissioner of public health and emergency services. The next item is the Joint Region and Police Facility Steering Committee and District 1 Facility Project. On June the 2nd, the Joint Region Police Facilities Committee met. David Eek, who is our board member and chair of our Building Accommodation Committee, and myself attended this meeting, again done virtually. There's a full report in our package today that talks about the progress being made on District 1, item number 101. The next meeting is scheduled for July 21st. However, I believe that may have been adjusted in the calendar. At this time, I will ask Member Eek if he has any additional comments on this item. I know it comes up later, but this is an opportunity, Dave, if you'd like to speak now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly, and our members have been following closely Walk District, the rebuild, replaced 68 Church Street. As you indicated, you and I had a chance to walk through 68 Church and just to make the public aware there's really a need for that building deterioration. I'm very pleased with the cooperation and working with the region. It seems the schedule in the fall, the landscaping prior to in December of this year, but around January of. So I believe all is well right now, and thank you for the opportunity to speak, Chair.
Thank you, Member Eek. Are you on a wireless phone in your house by any chance? You're breaking up in your conversation. We're only getting about 50% of it.
Okay, well, and I will phone in again.
Okay, thank you. Last item is to talk about our upcoming Police Service Board meetings. The next committee meeting, Thursday the 9th of July at 8:30 in the morning at headquarters. We anticipate that we might be able to hold that as a physical meeting because with the board and service representatives physically distanced, we can accommodate 10 members in a very large space spread out, but we haven't totally confirmed on that. If not, it'll be one of the YouTube virtual meetings. The next regular monthly meeting of the Police Service Board will be Thursday, the 23rd of July at 8:30 in the morning. We again believe that we might be able to hold this as a meeting, again at headquarters. Some work still needs to be done to ensure that we're able to create the physical distancing required, and the 10-person rule would still apply to that meeting as well, so it's still a work in progress. Those are the only items that I have to put forward this morning. And moving next item, I will turn it over to Chief McCullough for any comments and his report to the board. Chief?
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Ganzel. I'll lead off my comments by first talking about the value and importance of building strong relationships between the police and the community that we serve. As we're certainly all aware, the world witnessed the death of Mr. George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police on May 25th, 2020. Mr. Floyd's death set off violence and protests not only in the United States but in Canada and other countries throughout the world. I want to be very clear. The actions of those Minneapolis officers were disgusting, reprehensible, and certainly not in keeping with our values and beliefs. Simply put, there is no place for systemic racism in policing, or for that matter in society. The incident has highlighted the need for the public to have trust and confidence in police services to deliver bias-free policing to their communities. I want to reinforce that our objective as a police service, as always, is to maintain the public peace and ensure the core values of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms are maintained. The mission statement of the Niagara Regional Police Service states that we shall provide quality policing services with integrity, diligence, and sensitivity, and that we believe in being fair and unbiased in the performance of our duties in accordance with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We continually reinforce that expectation with our members, regardless of race, color, ancestry, religion, place of origin, ethnic origin, citizenship, gender, or sexual orientation. We treat all people with dignity and respect, and that we remain committed by our actions to deliver unbiased policing to our community. Effective policing relies on the foundation of building and maintaining trust between the police and the community, the entire community. On Saturday, June 6, 2020, I, along with other members of the service, participated in the Justice for Black Lives demonstration here in Niagara Falls. Thousands of people converged on the city of Niagara Falls to lend support to the Black community for what was a very emotional but a peaceful demonstration. Organizers for the event were very supportive and appreciative of the presence of our officers, and spoke during the demonstration of the special relationship that our community enjoys with the members of our police service. Throughout the day, I was approached by numerous members of the public who were extremely complimentary of our members and clearly very supportive of our police service. While I'm aware that we remain in the midst of a pandemic, we as a service were trying to find a balance between the current restrictions that are in place while also acknowledging and supporting this call for change. Throughout the demonstration, I and all officers that were with me were wearing personal protective equipment. As a follow-up to the Niagara Falls demonstration, there was a further Black Lives Matter demonstration held in St. Catharines on Sunday, June 14th. Senior officers from our service, which included Acting Superintendent Marco Gianico, the District Commander of one district responsible for policing in St. Catharines and Thorold, participated in this event, which was also peaceful in nature. Keeping with the theme of building strong relationships between the police and the community we serve, I also want to make mention of the Niagara Regional Police Service Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan, which will be discussed later this morning. The creation of the plan has been underway for quite some time. However, with the death of Mr. Floyd, is of significant relevance in the current social movement. The diversity plan recognizes that we all have a role in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that it requires support from all members of the police service. We are currently creating an internal committee of members who will oversee the implementation of the plan and provide valuable guidance to the service in promoting a culture of inclusivity, while identifying and seeking to minimize any barriers that equity-seeking groups face. Over the last several years, while we work towards the goal of being an ever-increasingly diverse and inclusive police service, we have been actively engaging equity-seeking groups within our community as part of the Chief of Police Inclusion Council. This has allowed the police service to dialogue directly with the community, to hear their concerns and share their victories and successes. We met as recent as last Friday to engage our community partners, to hear from them and share insight into the current events. It's imperative that we not lose momentum, and we will continue this path forward. We're fortunate in Niagara to have strong connections, strong dialogue, and cooperation with our community partners. Now, more than ever, we need to be connected and engaged, working together for a better, more unified future. We can't change the past, but we can commit to doing better, and we do that one day and one interaction at a time. We're committed to working with the community partners. Working against each other helps no one. We need to come together in a collaborative manner. To find a solution. Perhaps there are calls for service that we could do better, that could be better responded to by social services. Let's identify those. Let's collaborate to find a solution, one that works for our community. They deserve that. People are speaking, and we are listening and ready to dialogue. But we also raise our families here, our members, our parents, coaches, and volunteers. They are about our community and the people, all of the people who both call Niagara home, those who visit our region. I just want to provide an update to the board regarding the COVID-19 situation. As a service, we continue to manage and adapt to the ever-changing reality of the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact it's having on our community and our members. The Government of Ontario has again extended the state of emergency this time until July the 15th, 2020. However, we continue to see an easing of the restrictions imposed as a result of the enactment of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. This includes the Niagara region moving into Stage 2 as of Friday, June 19th, as per the province's framework to recovery. Stage 2 allows for the increase of social gatherings from 5 to now 10 people, with the reopening of child care centers and day camps and the reopening of shopping centers, to name a few. Even with the reopening of certain establishments and people returning to the workplace, life is far from back to normal, and the province and public health authorities continue to stress physical distancing. Even with the reopening, sorry, I just said that, my apologies. We as a service continuing to encourage members to observe these safety measures both in the workplace as well as in their personal lives when off duty. Our Pandemic Business Continuity Committee continues to meet regularly to adapt our methods as needed. From this committee, a return to work subcommittee was created to develop a comprehensive strategy on how to return members safely back to the workplace who have been working remotely from home in the midst of COVID-19. The service has and will continue to be vigilant and methodical in our approach to ensure the safety of all of our members. We'll be flexible and adaptable to changing circumstances based on a combination of government and public health direction, and we will continue to closely monitor what is taking place within the community. As of Monday, June 22nd, we have reopened all district front desk counters to members of the public. Business hours for all of our front desks will return to pre-pandemic hours. Further, the service desk for our records unit has also reopened this past Monday and will be open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday by appointment only. This will allow members of the public to process Freedom of Information requests, record checks, and record suspension requests, commonly known as pardons. As part of the reopening of police facilities to members of the public, passive screening and physical distancing measures have been put in place to protect members of the public and service employees. For clarity, passive screening includes the placement of signage for an individual to self-check for any potential indicators of COVID-19. The service continues to work with stakeholders, which include the municipalities, the region, public health, and our participation in the Emergency Operations Center to help guide us through these evolving times. Included with this mutual cooperation framework, members of the service continue to assist municipal bylaw enforcement officers in ensuring compliance of emergency orders through education and in some cases through being present when necessary enforcement action has taken place for offenses that have been committed. I want to thank all of the municipalities, in particular their enforcement personnel, in continuing to manage and deal with the various evolving emergency orders and in responding to the various issues and concerns that have been identified within their communities. The Niagara Regional Police Service to date has itself issued 4 provincial offense notices to members of the public for failing to comply with emergency orders. I can further advise that we have received a total of 576 COVID-19 specific calls for service related to those emergency orders. As it pertains to personal protection equipment or PPE for our members, Our service continues to maintain an adequate supply of N95 masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, and wipes. The supply of PPE and the supply chains continue to be monitored and assessed to ensure that the service is well positioned for any future possibilities. Since the start of the pandemic back in March of this year, the service has been able to maintain adequate staffing levels, and we have not had to cancel any scheduled time off for our members. As of this date, the service has not had any confirmed cases of COVID-19 affecting any of our members. This is obviously very good news and a testament to our members adhering to the various safety precautions. Initially, when the emergency orders were enacted on March 17th, the Niagara Regional Police Service experienced a drop in volume of calls for service. Since then, the calls for service volume has steadily increased, and now we are currently trending at or above pre-pandemic levels. This has been the case for a little over a month now. Further, there has and continues to be COVID-related calls for service. However, there has been no significant deviation of calls for service with respect to any particular geographic area as it pertains to any vulnerable group or any serious breaches of the peace related to the pandemic. In an effort to safeguard and ensure that our members have the most current and accurate information, I've sent out a total of 41 update email messages. Additionally, I continue to host virtual town hall meetings as another means to share information and provide an opportunity for our members to ask questions related to COVID-19. As the members of the board are well aware, these updates are forwarded to your executive director, Deb Reed, who in turn forwards those messages to yourself so that you are also aware as to the developments as it pertains to NRPS operating in this new era of COVID. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all members of the service for their continued resilience and professionalism in serving our community throughout these difficult and challenging times. It's evident that we still have a long road ahead as the virus continues to circulate within our community. We must all continue to be diligent and patient for the foreseeable future in managing the realities of COVID-19. The path forward will be slow, methodical, and will require all of us to be flexible and adapt to further changes throughout this recovery journey. Just want to talk about some firearm seizures that occurred in 2019. So in 2019, we seized a total of 117 handguns. We seized 73 rifles, and we seized 16 shotguns. By comparison, in 2018, there were 36 handguns seized, and in 2017, 24 handguns seized, and in 2016, 20 handguns seized. And rifles, there were 56 seized in 2018, 16 seized in 2017, and 5 seized in 2016. So as you will have noticed that firearm seizures for 2019 are up from 2018 totals. Most noteworthy is the seizure of handguns, which more than tripled from 2018 to 2019. The increase in handgun seizures is largely due to the increased cooperation between Canadian and U.S. law enforcement agencies in combating the smuggling of illicit firearms over the border, ultimately destined to persons involved in the criminal element within our region, the GTA, and beyond. Further, you will have noticed an increase in the seizure of rifles. This uptick in rifle seizures is attributed to some gun owners importing prohibited devices commonly known as silencers and selector switches from China. Resultantly, some of these individuals already having non-restricted firearms and such firearms seized as per relevant legislation. I want to emphasize that the Niagara Regional Police Service is committed and will continue our efforts and obligation to combat gun crimes in our community. This includes investigations within our own region and also partnering with other law enforcement agencies when and wherever appropriate. Just want to make the board aware of an SIU notification. Preliminary investigation suggests that on May 20th, 2020, shortly after 5 p.m., a 24-year-old woman was arrested in the area of Kitchener Street and Slater Avenue in the city of Niagara Falls for breaching conditions. The woman was taken to the Niagara Regional Police Service holding facility and lodged in a cell. On May 1st, 2020, at approximately 2 p.m., the woman attended a telecommunications bail hearing. She was then returned to her cell, and at 4:50 p.m., the woman was found unresponsive in her cell. Emergency medical services attended, and the woman, unfortunately, was pronounced deceased. As a result, the Special Investigation Unit was notified and invoked their mandate. As the SIU has invoked its mandate, I'm unable to comment further on this matter so as to not jeopardize their investigation. Another matter, the SIU has closed on November 17th, 2019, a store employee of a Walmart store located on Van Sickle Road in St. Catharines notified police that a male was behaving strangely and that store management wished to have him removed from the property. Police attended and arrested the male outside the store. The male, during the arrest, resisted being handcuffed and had to be placed to the ground to achieve this result. Once the 35-year-old male was handcuffed, it was discovered that he had a cut under his right eye. The male was transported to the hospital and he was assessed as having a fracture to the orbital bone of his right eye. Given the injury, the SIU was notified and invoked their mandate to investigate. One constable was designated as a subject officer by the SIU, and one constable was designated as a witness officer. On May 25th, 2020, our service received notification from SIU Director Joseph Martino. In his closure letter, he advised that the level of force used by police was reasonably necessary under the circumstances and that the SIU had concluded their investigation and there are no grounds for criminal charges against any officers. There were no concerns expressed by the SIU director in his notification letter. Just want to provide the board with some homicide statistics. During the reporting period of May 20th to June 23rd, we had one homicide that occurred in the Niagara region. So far in 2020, we have 3 homicides and 2 attempt murder investigations. Comparatively, in 2019, we had 7 homicides for the entire year and 2 for attempt murder. In 2018, 2 homicides and 7 attempt murders. 2017, 3 homicides and 3 attempt murders. And in 2016, we had 1 homicide and 1 attempt murder investigation. A little bit of information with regards to the most recent homicide. On May 29th, 1 district uniform officers in St. Catharines responded to a report of an assault at a residence on Densgrove Road near Vine Street in the city of St. Catharines. When officers arrived on scene, they located a 68-year-old female deceased within the residence. Resultantly, a 60-year-old male was arrested at the scene and has since been charged with first-degree murder. The incident is domestic-related homicide. The investigation remains ongoing by our homicide unit and is now before the courts. Just with regards to some traffic fatality information, there were 4 fatal motor vehicle collisions and no life-threatening motor vehicle collisions in the month of May. Thus far, so for the first 5 months of 2020, we had 6 fatal collisions and 2 non-reportable fatal collisions as a result of medical issues that occurred in this time frame. Comparatively, we had 13 fatal collisions for all of 2019, 13 fatal collisions for all of 2018, 16 for 2017, and again 16 for 2016 and 15 for 2015. So we are trending very similar to past years in that regards. Just with regards to one of the fatal collisions that occurred on Saturday, May 9th, 2020, members of our collision reconstruction unit attended Smeaton's Cove, located on the Niagara River Parkway in Niagara-on-the-Lake, to assist uniformed personnel and Niagara Parks Police regarding a fatal motor vehicle incident. Smeaton's Cove is a paved asphalt roadway at a scenic lookout over the Niagara Gorge in the approximate vicinity of the Floral Clock. Investigation determined that a 42-year-old female driver and sole occupant of the motor vehicle, which she owned and drove through a fence into the Niagara Gorge. The female was located in her vehicle at the bottom of the gorge, deceased, and that investigation is still ongoing. On Tuesday, May the 19th, police responded to a report of a bicycle collision on Sutherland Avenue in the city of Welland. Investigation determined that a 60-year-old male was operating his bicycle on Sutherland Avenue when for unknown reasons he fell to the ground. The male, when located by citizen, was unresponsive. The cyclist was transported to a local hospital by EMS where he was pronounced deceased. Regional coroner attended and determined that the cyclist's injuries were not consistent with being struck by a motor vehicle. However, a pre-existing medical condition may have been a factor, and that investigation is still ongoing as well. On Saturday, May 23rd, our officers responded to a report of an all-terrain vehicle collision that occurred in a field north of Ridge Road near Curlin Avenue in the city of Niagara Falls. Investigation determined that an 18-year-old female was operating the ATV with a 17-year-old female passenger. The ATV was proceeding in a southeasterly direction across the dry mud agricultural field when the front right tire struck a swale. The ATV subsequently rolled, causing life-threatening injuries to both persons. The injured females were transported to a local hospital where the 18-year-old was pronounced deceased. The 17-year-old's injuries were eventually downgraded from life-threatening, and she has since been released from hospital and continues to recover at home. This investigation also remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction unit. On Sunday, May 24th, police responded to a report of a single motor vehicle collision on the Welland Canal Parkway at Chapel Street South in the city of Thorold. Investigation determined that a 26-year-old male driver was operating a Chevrolet Cruze motor vehicle southbound on Welland Canal Parkway at a high rate of speed in the area of Lock 7, where Welland Canal Parkway turns right in a westerly direction. The vehicle continued southbound, striking a raised concrete barrier. The driver was pronounced deceased at the scene. There were no passengers in the vehicle at the time of the collision, and that investigation also remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction unit. A couple of items in the news. On June 1st, 2020, 5 district uniform officers in Fort Erie and our K-9 unit responded to a break-and-enter in progress in the area of Catherine Street and Aberdeen Street in the town of Fort Erie. Officers attended the area and a K-9 track led uniform officers to a nearby residence of a possible suspect. As a result, stolen property from the break-and-enter was located and seized. During the search, detectives also located property linked to multiple break-and-enters that have occurred in the last few months. A prohibited weapon was also found. A 40-year-old male and a 40-year-old female, both from Fort Erie, were arrested and charged with numerous offenses. The investigation remains ongoing as detectives examine the recovered property. Detectives anticipate that further charges will be laid as it pertains to other break-and-enters that have occurred in the Fort Erie area. In June of 2020, detectives from Niagara Regional Police Morality Unit began investigating the alleged sale of fentanyl, crystal methamphetamine, and cocaine occurring throughout the Niagara region. During the course of the investigation, detectives identified 3 males and 2 females who were involved in the sale of illegal drugs. On June 11th, detectives arrested the suspects. Subsequent search warrants resulted in the seizure of over 900 grams of fentanyl, so almost a kilogram of fentanyl, with a street value of over $270,000, 3.5 grams of carfentanil with a street value of over $1,100, and 2 grams of cocaine with a street value of just over $200. Also seized was drug paraphernalia, just under $50,000 in currency was also seized. A 2018 Nissan Maxima was seized as proceeds of crime, and as a result, 5 people were arrested and are now facing multiple drug-related charges. And detectives, another sexual assault investigation that is underway in St. Catharines. Detectives from the Niagara Regional Police Service Sexual Assault Unit continue to investigate a sexual assault that occurred on June 18th in the Hydro Hill area of St. Catharines. Detectives have now determined that the female victim in her 70s was first attacked as she walked eastbound along the edge of the roadway on Lockhart Drive. She was then forced into the nearby woods. This area has been determined to be an industrial / commercial area at the west end of Lockhart Drive. The victim in this matter has been released from hospital and is recovering at home. The identity of the suspect is unknown. However, the investigation is continuing. The Niagara Regional Police are asking members of the public to remain vigilant and aware of their surroundings and to report any suspicious persons to the police. Those are all the matters that I wanted to report on. Obviously a lot taking place in the last month, but I do want to highlight the tremendous work that's being done despite all of the different challenges that are occurring within our community. Our members remain dedicated as ever to serving and safeguarding our community. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And on behalf of the board, I just want to again make it very clear that the board is fully supportive of the work that our members have been doing during this time of COVID-19. The numbers and statistics that you have referenced in the last few minutes certainly points out that our police service is active in our community, always has been active in our community, and as much as the pandemic has altered some areas of how we have done business, we are still committed to the Niagara region in protecting the welfare of our citizens in that, and I must commend the uniformed members and civilian members of this police service of doing what I would consider an outstanding job. So if you can pass those words back to the membership of our organization, that would be appreciated. So the next...
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'll make sure that I do that.
Thank you. Moving into the agenda now, we have no presentations at this time. Our consent items are number 100 to number 116. I would ask for a mover and seconder to put the block on the floor for discussion. A mover, please.
Bill Steele?
By Vice Chair Steele, seconded by?
Dave. Okay.
Sounded like Member McKendrick seconded that. So it's now on the floor and open for discussion. If the board members would just let me know which item number they wish to discuss, and then we can proceed that way. Board members, come forward, please.
Chair, it's Member Henry D'Angela. I just wanted to ask a question on 103.
Okay, that's annual report for the K-9 unit. Yes?
Yeah, just if the service can just give me a bit of an explanation on item D, which is on page 2. It's a summary of circumstances in which the K-9 unit has been deployed. And it says the K-9 unit responded to 1,437 calls, and then police service dogs were utilized 576. So the difference between those, are those just regular frontline officer calls for service? I just want clarity on that for myself.
Chief?
The difference is just it identifies the additional calls that they respond to where they may not necessarily be involved in tracking with the dog.
Okay, would a lot of those be like a frontline officer calls, or would that also include investigations and other items?
Primarily, those calls would be assisting frontline officers, but they are also involved in assisting with various investigative units. As an example, the sexual assault investigation that I referenced on Lockhart Drive in St. Catharines, that's an example where they may be deployed to assist our sexual assault unit, as an example.
Okay, no, that's great. That sort of gives me a bit of a better understanding. Appreciate that. The only suggestion I would have on that report is there's many other reports where there's statistics put in of calls for service. This particular report only reports on 2019, but when you look at some of the other reports in this consent agenda, like crisis negotiations, sexual assault investigations, underwater search and recovery unit, they give like a multi-year, like they'll give like a 3-year to sort of show what sort of trends are happening. I'm just wondering if, and I don't need this report adjusted, just moving forward, whenever there's a report like this, if we can add a little bit of the past years, it's helpful when we're reading it. I find it helpful.
Understood, and we'll make sure we do that going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was it for that item, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other members on any of the other numbers here? I just wanted to comment on 103. From a distance, I saw down here in Niagara Lake the K-9 unit going through some of their training exercises out in the what I call the oak forest here in Niagara Lake. So it was quite interesting, as I say, from a distance to see that activity. And the Niagara Regional Police Service, if I recall from a number of our different meetings, and that has always been one of the leaders in police training, and we do it for a number of organizations. So again, I think it's something that our service has led in a number of areas. Any other board members on any of the other comments on any of the other report items?
Chair, I just have a comment on 113.
Let's go ahead, Member D'Angela.
That was, and I just want to thank the service for the report, and also the report was pretty clear. It identified that sexual assault investigations are climbing. It's gone up from the previous year, and with the chief and his senior management team, they made an adjustment where they added more officers to that. So I think that's a great way of responding to the needs for investigation on a timely basis. So I do want to commend them for doing that. Wherever there's an increase, they're responding to it in a very proactive manner.
We've had a mover and seconder on this. I'm going to call the vote on this unless any board members have any other of the items they wish to discuss. Not hearing any. Then in calling the question, is there anyone who is not in favor of approving the block of the consent items, number 100 to number 116? Not hearing anything there, then this component is moved and approved. Move under new business, which is item number 117. It's the Niagara Regional Police Service 20 to 2022 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan. I need a mover and seconder on that. The motion reads that the board endorse the implementation of the Niagara Regional Police Service 2020-2022 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan. So a mover, please.
I'll move that. Henry D'Angela.
Thank you. Seconded by?
Kevin Gibson will second it.
Thank you, Member Gibson. Chief, this is a very important item, and I'm sure that you wish to speak on this one. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and yes, obviously a very important plan, and especially in light of ongoing current affairs. This is our second strategic plan on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really the plan recognizes that police cannot contribute to community safety and well-being in a vacuum, that it requires collaboration from a vast array of stakeholders, from both the business community, the social services, but also equity-seeking groups and education and institutions throughout the region. Our goal is to advance a culture that truly embraces diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And we believe that by doing so, it will create an environment where members feel accepted and valued, that it'll lead to an enhanced member engagement, enhanced productivity and innovation, and ultimately provide career satisfaction and wellness for our members. It'll enhance the reputation of our organization and contribute to our organization being viewed as an employer of choice. We also believe that it will allow us to attract, retain, and promote talent who embody our values of unity, responsibility, and loyalty. And ultimately, it will enhance our relationship with the various community stakeholders. The goal is broken down into 3 goals, which the first goal being that we promote a culture of inclusivity within the service. The second, that we be a police service that reflects the community that we serve. And as you note from the title of the document, which is Be Who We Serve, so it's aligned with that. And third goal is to strengthen relationships with our community partners. Within the plan, as you see, there are many strategic objectives, there are metrics and outcomes that we hope to achieve through the plan. We're looking for the board's support in endorsing the plan as we look again to build stronger relationships within our community, and again enhance the working environment for our members, and build upon again the reputation of the service as being an employer of choice. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I do have some questions on this, but I turn it over to board members on item number 117.
Dave Eek, if I may comment, Mr. Chair.
Please go ahead, Member Eek.
Thank you very much. Certainly the 2020 to 2022 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan is an important one and is looking for our board's continued support as the service implements its contents. As the chief had indicated, the background regarding this subject goes back to 2014 for the existing development with regards to these concerns and issues. And now today, of course, it's updating its diversity strategic plan. And these initiatives strive to build a strong policing relationship with our community, and I commend our police service for their plan, and I give it full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Eek. Any other questions from board members? Chief, I have one or two here just dealing with my notes here on goal number 2. As you mentioned, this is basically our second one out there. Are you able to give us some sort of a maybe a very high-level overview as to how we have been working in meeting some of the objectives that are in Goal 2 up till this time?
Sorry, that's in reference to the current plan, or the one that is before us today?
Oh, the one that this basically replaces one that's been in existence for a while. I'm just trying to get a handle as to how we have done in the last, let's say, 1 or 2 years in trying to, I'm looking at 2.1, attract individuals from equity-seeking groups through focused recruiting efforts. I'm looking to see if we've been reasonably successful in trying to, let's say, reach that goal prior to this.
Well, certainly our recruiting unit has really focused their efforts on trying to attract candidates from the various equity-seeking groups. Having interviewed all of the successful recruit constables who have been hired in the last 5 years or more, I can certainly speak to the fact that the recruiting efforts have been very successful. The quality of candidates that we're attracting are exceptional, and they certainly are much more representative today of the community that we serve. Certainly more members of the Black community, the LGBTQ community, and certainly more female members than we've seen in the past. So we are making great strides to enhance the diversity within our group, and sorry, also from the Indigenous population as well. We have seen efforts by our recruiting unit to enhance that group as well. And again, we are seeing improvements, and we continue to look for efforts to enhance those numbers.
Okay, thank you. And I noticed that because when the board is involved in the graduation ceremonies of our new constables, I certainly see the reflective in the candidates that are coming forward for their badges and being sworn in, the shift into a more of a diverse candidacy that maybe we've seen in the past. And my last question is on goal number 3, and I know you've spoken to this at length about discussion with the community in that, and I just want to basically say that the service is very pleased that your office is having these discussions with our various community groups. I see that this is a major focus as goal number 3 is to improve that outreach to various community groups and have those discussions. So this, as much as this is a goal, this is something that's been ongoing for a number of years, if I'm certainly correct in saying that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've developed the Chief of Police Community Inclusion Council, where we have representation from a broad sector of our community. Again, representation from the Black community, from the Indigenous community, the LGBTQ plus community, various faith groups within our community as well. We recognize that they provide a wealth of knowledge and opportunity for us to be able to assist in our recruiting efforts, but more importantly to provide us with feedback on what we're doing well and what areas of improvement there are for us, again, to so that we can become a more inclusive and diverse police service.
Okay, thank you very much. I certainly feel that this is an important step by our service and supported by the board moving forward. Before I call the vote on this one item, is there any other board members wishing to comment on this strategic plan?
It's Tara, if I may, Chair.
Yes, please, Member McKendrick, please go ahead.
I just wanted to bring more support to Member Eek's comments, as well as share my own that I think it's another reflection of the proactive activities of our service versus being reactive, and obviously provide full support of this plan and appreciation for the proactiveness dating back to 2014. So thank you to you all.
Thank you very much for those comments. Any other board members? So not hearing any on that. We have a mover and seconder on that. Is there anyone wishing to vote against the motion to move forward with the strategic plan? Not hearing anything, then this item number 117 is approved and it moves forward. Thank you, Chief, for all the work that has been done on this, as well as your senior executives that are referenced in here, and other members of the service. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I certainly, again, the board supports this entirely, and it's moving forward. Do we have any other new business, either from the service or board members? Chief, anything new that we've missed, or?
No, I've got no new business, but I would just, in relation to your comments about the plan, I do want to acknowledge the efforts of Sergeant Tammy Morden, who looks after our diversity, equity, and inclusion area within the service. She has tremendous outreach into the community and has provided valuable insight in the development of the plan, but also in building those strong relationships within our community that will be extremely important going forward as we work through these challenging times. So,
yes,
thanks.
and I would concur on that. I saw her very much engaged in the community during the march back on June the 6th, and she is definitely, I think, a vital component in moving this plan forward, and having that contact with the community at that level, I think, is extremely important. So again, Chief, if you would pass back to her the board's appreciation of the work that she's doing, as well as the other members of this police service. So
Thank you. We'll certainly do that.
Okay, thank you. We have no in-camera reports that are coming forward from the May 21st confidential meeting at this time. I have no other, the service reports no additional new business. Board members, any last comments on any items or new business? Not hearing anything there, then this meeting is adjourned at 9:35. So we'll adjourn for approximately 15 minutes. We will reconvene at 9:50, and that will be on a different teleconference line, and we will be entering into the confidential component of the board meeting. So thank everyone for attending. Stay safe, Niagara, and we hope to be maybe doing some sort of a physical meeting come July. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.